Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus Today. Tacitus Today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a very prominent news media. He was headlining the 6 o'clock news for decades. So he's probably one of the better known journalists in Australia. He's been doing it for, it must be close on 35 years, if not longer. And it was considered to be, again, one of the most prominent news announcers and current affairs anchors in the country. Now, he's worked for government broadcasters, and so he hasn't had the test of performance or ratings or anything like that. But he was, and he is still considered to be something of the darling of the leftist media, and he holds very leftist views. Now, he's firmly in the camp, the bubble camp, the camp bubble that talks about and pushes this idea of minorities being oppressed, and any oppressed minority is the victim, and it is his duty, as he sees it, to fight on their behalf against the oppressor. And of course, this is the totem pole of ideological victimhood, and he's very much into this. He comes, given his voice and the gravitas and the look, he sounds like he knows what he's talking about, but he hasn't got a fucking clue, as it turns out. He's just been a talking head, talking left-wing nonsense for decades, but again, he has a following. So when he goes out to make a speech, a prepared speech, which just does all the leftist talking points, you could go on to the World Economic Forum and just take the talking points off that, and he just pretty much repeats them. But it's to rapturous applause. And if he announces he's going to interview, some supposed centre right or right wing, say political or other personality, then the leftists gather and salivating over this idea that he's going to really kick the shit out of these bad right wing people and hold them to account and so on. Now, he does, when he interviews leftist people, though, particularly if it's like crazed radical feminists, his interviews are so soft and so pathetic. He does everything except just grovel on the floor and kiss their feet when he's interviewing the left-wing people. For example, as one that stuck in my mind, he was interviewing a woman from one of these North European parliaments where they put 50% of the parliamentarians have to be women. And so if any men were making speeches in there that were too long or were mansplaining, the women would start making the hand signals to each other to try and embarrass the man to shut him up. And this particular Australian interview was having little chuckles. Oh, what do you think? Oh, that's so clever. Oh. And it was a pathetic interview. I haven't seen anything that pathetic before. He groveled continually to this strong woman. But what if the men did it to the women? Oh, no, that's oppression. That's fascism. And so he takes a very tight view that if the victim, the supposed ideologically determined victim, does something, then that's okay, because they're fighting Nazis, they're fighting fascism. But if the supposed oppressor class does exactly the same thing and holds the other side, the leftists, to the standard, no, that's oppression, that's fascism, that's Hitler, that's Nazi, that's bigotry, it's racism, and yada yada. And so he's just completely in that camp. So let's have a look. His bona fides. Well, he's a straight white male, brought up as a Christian, but now says he's an atheist. But he lives in one of the most expensive postcodes in Australia, which is 98.9% white. And don't think that, there's some brown and black, but no, the brown and black people who live there are the rich Brahmins or the fantastically rich Chinese Communist Party generals, Arab oil sheikhs, that sort of thing. We're not talking any peasants around there. The entry level house price is close to $4 million. So anyway, that's where he lives. Now, he would have bought in that suburb a while ago, which was never cheap, by the way, but the appreciation of real estate in that area has been particularly particularly huge. So he lives now. He's also got a country property, which is again in an area that's 98, 99% white. He's someone who's constantly championing the mass migration. The oppressed, masses of the world have a right to come to the first world. Well, he doesn't know why, just because, and they're escaping oppression and so on. But he was making a speech. He's coming to the point of his where he's about to retire, and he's not holding up to his health. Doesn't look too good, but he's out doing the rounds, making speeches at award nights and all these sorts of ceremonial type things. And again, all he does is read off the World Economic Forum talking points, not just to polite applause, but rapturous applause. He's some sort of ideological genius or whatever. I don't know. To me, he comes across as just a silly little fucking idiot who's just pushing out, again, the globalist talking points. But then he comes to the subject of, the matter of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is overturning all the institutions of democracy. Well, one institution he doesn't say. How is democracy being? Doesn't say. He cites that just telling lies that armed police are murdering millions of American citizens, billions, trillions of American citizens are being murdered by Trump's police, Nazi police, fascist police. But they're not. Why are you telling lies? If Trump is as bad as you make out, then you don't need to tell lies. The facts would speak for themselves. So he trots out lie after lie after lie about things that Trump's supposedly been doing. But again, it's talking points, that are just been scripted by some gender studies, sociology, teenage lesbian major out of some bullshit university has written this for him. None of it's true. None of it's accurate. And again, if Trump is that bad, as he says, then the facts alone would illustrate that. If you have to tell so many lies, lie after lie, and it's all lies, then Trump is no danger. But nonetheless, every line was given with applause. He's overturning a Democrat. What democratic institutions is he overturning? No, I happen to have met this man twice, and I mean, you wouldn't call him necessarily unpleasant, but he's so ideological. He's such an ideological fanatic about supporting victims. He sees women and brown and black people as being the eternal victims, and straight white people being the eternal oppressors. And he sees his only function in life so his life must be rather empty. I'm thinking that he has to run around as some high-powered crusader, but it's like he's stuck at 19 in his student politics activist days when he'd be running around, ban the bomb and stop the Vietnam War or something. He's like he's caught in a vice-like grip of that era, the placard waving on the street, punk-ass kid, and he just never got out of it. And he just keeps on, whatever the flavor of the month victim is what he then says. I'm the champion of them. I am their champion. I am their big, muscular, big, tough guy champion, and I'm protecting them. No, I saw him in an instance where he met a radical feminist female of some activist group, and he put on this sickly, childlike, almost like he was begging, a smile, like he was begging for their approval or begging for their to be anointed by them. And I just watched him. It was absolutely sad and pathetic the way he grovelled for no reason. He just met them. He grovelled and had this very sickly, again, like he was desperately seeking their approval smile. And I've seen him twice in situations like that. And the big tough guy, I'm fighting back against oppression. And then when he's with the family, I mean, what was the deal here? Does he like being tied up and whipped by radical feminists? I mean, what was going on? It was sad to watch. And he fancies himself as this big tough guy, the protector of the oppressed. And particularly, again, brown and black people, gay, lesbian, and so on. He interviewed a guy years ago who was gay, but didn't make a big deal out of being gay. He was just a guy who was a professional in a certain area who also happened to be gay. And in the interview, and he constantly came back to, oh, you were oppressed, weren't you? Tell us how oppressed you were. Tell us what those evil fascist Nazis did to you. And that was really the extent of the interview. The guy would have had quite an interesting life in terms of his professional pursuits and endeavours, but that was barely touched upon. This same guy kept coming back only to the gayness and so on. So this was a paradigm and worldview he couldn't get out of. But in this particular government-funded media outlet, he was again put up as some sort of great protector of the oppressed, but he was at best a 50% journalist, if you could even call it that. He did have a certain presence and gravitas on the screen, but that was all bullshit. He was a groveling little snotty punk when it came to the victims he was talking to. So he was only a big tough guy for when he was interviewing or dealing with the imagined oppressors. Then he became a big tough dude, but not outside of that. But what deeply concerned me was that there was a large crowd where he was made, and they would have all been in the bubble. There was a large crowd there, but he came out with this nonsense about Trump and about the threat. The world is in a threat. The right wing, the Nazis are taking control. Where are they taking control? It's the rise of the AfD in Germany and reform in the UK. But they're Nazis? I mean, are you kidding? So again, inventing things and putting names and tags on people. I mean, for example, the reverse. You could go the reverse, say, well, the left wing is taking control. Stalin, the murderer of little babies. It's Stalin all over again. Baby murderers. I mean, you could do the same thing. But why make it up? And why invent it? And why, again, tell so many lies? But the primary concern to me was with the big crowd and the rapturous applause he was getting. As the camera panned in the audience, it was like they were listening to a god proclaimed from the mountaintop. Not some little shithead ideological fanatic who doesn't know, his ass from his elbow, which is, who this person really is. Now, in spite of him talking about how he's a protector of the oppressed and so on, again, I mentioned earlier he lives a very wealthy lifestyle in an all-white area. And I've passed by when he's been walking around in the local parks and the local cafes. He's got an all-white entourage around him. I mean, I've never seen a black or brown person around him. When you see him even on camera walking around, it's an all-white entourage there with him as well. His production team is all white and so on. So none of the things that he proclaims to be a supporter of in ideological terms, in the real world, he doesn't have anything to do with those people or those places or suburbs or areas of the town. He's living in a wealthy, all-white areas and doesn't step outside of it. And yet he's got the chutzpah to run around and say he's the champion of the brown and black oppressed. I mean, it's insane. But these sort of people are in control of the media largely, and not deservedly so, but simply because of their ideological fanaticism. And with ideological fanatics, as you will always see throughout history, whether it's a Pol Pot, a Chairman Mao, or Stalin, the pursuit of the ideology is all important, and they will accept any collateral damage, millions upon millions and millions of deaths they will accept in pursuit of the ideology, and they perceive themselves to be righteously allowed to do so. You've been a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.